All right, we're live. Let me know how far it is behind.
Around 10 seconds,
Mm,
15 seconds.
Okay, that's kind of a pain in the butt. Let me. We're gonna have to deal with it. I think the thing is when I hit start
Probably
streaming
10.
and before I hit go live, it'll start buffering the stream, which is kind of a pain. But alrighty. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do intros. I'm Sabian. I'm Ambid in Discord. I'll be guiding us through the oneleif website today.
Hey, I'm Zach, Leaf in Discord, and yeah, I'll be helping Sabian guide us through this.
I'm Fardeen, Pepper on Discord, and I guess I'm just here for the ride and to see what happens.
I'm Will, terminally Will on Discord. Just here to help out however I can.
Alrighty.
I'm Parshav on Discord, by the way. Also here in Zach. So just FYI.
Alrighty, so Will and Parshav and Fardeen, you guys haven't seen this before, or you haven't been on the stream for it before, but we're going to go ahead and just do a quick meditation session. Just breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, 5 seconds of breathing in, 5 seconds of breathing out. We'll take about 30 seconds to do it. It gets us nice and focused, gets us nice and relaxed before the stream. So let's go ahead and hit it. Alrighty. Okay, so usually what we like to do is we like to go through a few of the channels and go through some updates that have happened in the organization. I've taken the liberty of not doing that anymore, so that way we don't have to scroll through the Discord channel. I pulled out some of the most important updates over this week, and we're going to go ahead and go through them like we usually do with the oneleif announcements. So the first one we had an idea from. Did you want to say something, Zach?
No,
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I heard you start saying something. Okay.
no, that was FTB joining.
Oh, okay. Cool. Hi, FTB.
Hello, how you guys doing?
Good. How are you, buddy?
Not too bad, not too bad.
We are live on
Sorry, I'm a
YouTube right
little
now, by
late.
the way.
Okay, I'll pull that up.
Sweet. Okay, so one of the recommendations for this week was to set up a set of mental health channels. Either we got the recommendation for 2 separate channels, one to be like kind of a rant of like what's going wrong, and one to be kind of a celebration channel of like what's going right. We haven't really made a decision on that. I'm up to discussion on this one, but I do think it's important that it's a thing that oneleif hits on because everybody hits burnout, everybody hits rough spots in life, and since we are what I hope we are is such a close knit community that we don't just work on things, we actually care about each other. So look in the future for us to make an announcement about how we're going to roll that out. It's still up for discussion. Do you guys have any points you'd like to hit on that while we're on it?
I'd just like to touch on the topic of that it doesn't have to be like initially right now, it doesn't have to be just a channel. We can really kind of just promote mental health, making sure that, we have the daily progress, we try to push ourselves, just understanding that we can take breaks and we, deserve them at some point. But yeah, just moving on with that. I don't think a channel is kind of tough because like, what do I post in there? Like good articles, like resources is good. I think we can use all the channels, and if we can't, then we need to discuss that. But we should always just promote mental health. Like the whole meditation that we do at the beginning is a great example.
Yep, I second the fact that upkeep might be difficult, especially with so many channels.
I would say we already have a
And
lot.
yeah, and we're already sharing articles about life outside of technical work in resources and resource discussions. So I think it's already happening. It's just a matter of keeping it a regular occurrence.
Yeah, maybe Zach and I could put a reminder into our daily progress to reach out to everybody and check in and make sure everybody's doing all right. That might be the easiest and best step to take first off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and make note of that. Okay, so we also like to do an active project stand-up where we go through all of the active projects. All the active projects have kind of winded down, other than the One Leaf website. The Vampire Framework, I haven't heard from Z in a little bit. He's swamped with classes right now. The Bunny Hop project, I've been doing so much other random crap that I just haven't gotten to it in a while. The One Leaf OL Go, the One Leaf mobile app is on hold until the website gets fleshed out because Zach is helping on the website. And then Swift UI Kit, Zach, do you have some updates since last week?
Just that I posted a blog article about it, kind of trying to outline it and simplify it so other people can use it, but nothing much after that. I
Oh
got
yeah,
distracted with the Guild Wars 2 API wrapper. So
yeah. Actually forgot to write this down. The Medium articles. Tina wrote a great Medium article. Zach wrote a great Medium article. For those of you not familiar with, I don't know why this is the default that I go to. um, for those of you who don't know, Medium is a blogging site. One Leaf made a publication, which basically means you can publish your articles under the One Leaf publication. It helps One Leaf get more feedback. It helps you get more feedback for the more people that join One Leaf. It's a nice feedback loop. So go read some of the articles. Go give them claps or what most people call likes. Um, it's a great system for you to track your progress. Okay, so the biggest update that we have for you guys this week, for the organization as a whole, is Zach, Susie, and I set up a bank account. And what that means is now we can start seriously looking at partnerships with other companies, with other nonprofits. It means we can start taking donations. It also means we can look into buying the One Leaf swag now that we have a bank account and that we can track it for tax purposes. It also means people can donate and we can give them a receipt from the bank account so that they can use it as a tax deductible. So some things that we're looking at doing is setting up donations through either Patreon, a new system from GitHub called Sponsors, or a small program called Ko-Fi or Coffee, however you pronounce it, where you can basically send people money for the worth of a coffee. So,
Oh,
oh
that's an interesting concept.
yeah, the Ko-Fi is super cool. You can basically put it on your GitHub. Zach, do you have it set up on yours? Should I go to your GitHub?
yeah, if you go to my GitHub, just go to like SF symbols or Swift UI Kit, and there should be a sponsor button. Now GitHub's a little weird because they have kind of two phases of
It
sponsors.
is.
You can put a sponsor button that links to a repo that then shows other ones, and Coffee or Ko-Fi is one of them. They have a beta feature called Sponsor that you can sponsor your page, and people can pay you like Patreon, and you say like for $5 you get stickers or whatever, or in $10 you get in my README or stuff like that. So those are kind of the things rolling out with the GitHub sponsor.
So what I think is nice about that is One Leaf isn't set up to pay people quite yet. It's something we've thought about for as we get more pivotal people, such as Will, on the team. Um, it would be nice to be able to give them some sort of kickback for putting so much time and effort into the One Leaf organization, kind of as a way of us showing appreciation from leadership. Um, on top of that, if we set up Ko-Fi, for example, Zach and I could just buy Will a coffee or something like that, to show our appreciation, just Zach and I's personal appreciation, not the organization's.
Mm-hmm.
And it also would work for, like, I don't know, if you took somebody under your wing and you've been spending tons of hours mentoring them, they could give you some sort of donation for your efforts. So
Right.
I think it's just a good system to have.
And I think even to grow the community, scaling is always difficult without funding. So
Yep, and it'll open up One Leaf as an organization to get funding. I don't think the majority of our funding is going to come from single donors. It'll probably come from companies and other nonprofits.
yeah,
But it does allow people, if they find value in the organization, to help support it.
definitely.
Okay, so look forward to some updates on the donations front. We haven't quite made 100% a decision on that. We might make some posts in the direction channel to see what people think. But yeah, we just wanted everybody to be aware of where we're moving in the future. Okay, so on to the main topic for the evening. The goal of this stream was to talk about the One Leaf website, get some preparation done so that way we have another set of work for everybody to work on. And it's kind of hard to plan these things ahead of time without everybody or without multiple people being involved because feedback is really important in this process. None of us are quite to the level of, being 60 years old, having done development for 40 years, and knowing exactly what in the world needs to be done. So it's kind of nice to have everybody's input. So we have FTB and Will, who are front end developers, Zach and I, who are back end developers, and Fardeen, who's a designer. So we kind of have the full gambit of roles here, which will be great. So, some updates on the website as a whole before we get into the planning process. Arcus or Arik and I have been working on the migration to Amazon Web Services. So what that means for us is you no longer have to test things locally. Um, Hopefully in the future, what that'll mean is that you can test your changes to some deployment or development environment out on AWS. It means you won't have to install Swift on your machine, that type of thing. It'll make it much more easier for all the front end developers. What that also means is that as things are getting pushed up to the repositories, it also means that things will automatically get pushed out to AWS. So what that means is when you go to oneleif.com, if Wilt were to make an update, it was to get approved, it got pushed in, and then moved to the master branch. I know I'm getting a little technical, but basically once it's all been approved, it will automatically be pushed out, and the website will be updated for us. We won't have to touch anything, which is super cool. The next thing that I'd like to talk about is the wiki that we've been working on. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. So on the OL website front, I've fleshed out a little bit more of the MVP. I've added some. I added a page for Zach to write down what he was working on for Google Ads, but that got blocked due to the bank account issue as well as the website not being published yet. The other problem is that we bought the oneleif.com domain through a third party, and we want to migrate that to AWS. But the organization that manages all of the domains, it's called ICANN, requires you to be registered for 60 days before you can migrate to a new host. And we have 6 days until we can migrate. So as soon as that's done, oneleif.com will be public. You can go into your browser, type in oneleif.com, be able to hit our website, and then we can start the Google ad campaign. And our goal behind that is to basically get more awareness around OneLeaf, get more members, build a bigger community. I've also written some notes on how Arcus and I are doing the AWS deployment. The biggest thing that I wanted to talk about for the wiki is I have this little bit of how to contribute, and that basically goes over what is open source, how to get started, all that jazz for the development side of things. I'd like to basically pull this out, right, and put it in its own repository, just called like OneLeaf Git styles or standards or something like that. And basically, what it'll do is it'll give you links to how to get started in Git. It'll if we don't give links, I'll make a tutorial myself. It'll also give standards. So if you go to, for example, the actual repo itself, you can see in the README, we kind of have this footer. This is basically says that this is an active project. So I like to have that README linkable or copyable from a central repository, so that way everybody can look at the same place. On top of that, it would be nice for everybody to just be able to say, for contribution, go link to this one central wiki, and that works for all OneLeaf projects. So it helps people that aren't working on a huge project to just say, I don't want to write a bunch to teach people how to contribute. I'm just going to send them to the OneLeaf wiki, and that will probably help us get a lot more active projects because it'll make it easier for them to start up their own active project.
I think on the topic of standardization too, it might be very relevant to design as well if you want to create a consistent design language. So having a wiki dedicated to documenting some of the processes and component libraries and so on would be really, really helpful.
I will reach out to you later on in this week about that because that is an awesome idea. I love that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next, I want to just touch on design real quick. I'm sorry, Fardeen, we're not going to be doing much design during the stream itself.
That's all right.
Our lead designer is in a dance class. She's busy. We are playing with the idea of moving stream to Tuesdays because she would be free during that, which would be freaking awesome to have a designer on stream every time to help keep things from getting too technical. But we are still in discussion about that. I don't know because we have the meetup scheduled for Thursday, and it was nice that we could just do stream, and then for the third Thursday of the month, we could still stream, but just during the meetup. And I don't know if changing the meetup is gonna affect things too much, so we have some more discussion to do on that. So we'll get back to that later. So the point being, for the design team, those that are designers that are watching this, Susie will post messages either in the OneLeaf website channel or the UXD channel saying, let's schedule a meeting for probably this weekend. That way we can get some things hashed out so that way the front end has some designs to go off of. Okay. Here is going to be the longest section of the stream. We have to talk about planning out the front end work. And the first thing that I wanted to hit at was some of the standards. Thanks to our glorious front end developer Will, we already have some standards. I got too many tabs. I have it under the project style guide in our wiki. We have some stuff for code block styling, code documentation, component, Git. Git standards will get ripped out. They will be moved to that contribution wiki. We have stuff for JavaScript. We have some naming conventions for it says HTML, CSS, and JS, but we didn't have any for CSS. So I made a note to write that down. We have some extra React styling and file naming conventions. So I'd like to take an extra look at the coding standards real quick and just see what we're missing. So Will, FTB, if you guys see anything glaringly obvious that we are missing, I'd love to write it down so I can make a ticket for us. I don't want to go through making tickets during this stream because it was kind of a pain last time, and I feel like it took up too much time and got a little technical.
Yeah.
So either
And also, these standards aren't concrete.
yeah.
If anybody has any objections or any
Oh, I forgot to do
personal
that.
opinions about it and would like to have them changed, just like throw up an issue and we can discuss it.
I'm gonna add to the contribution wiki. I'm gonna add an article on how to submit proposals for standards. And creating issues. So yeah, whenever I get to making the contribution wiki, it's gonna just have so much useful stuff that will make all this stuff a little bit more standardized for projects in the future. So the OneLeaf website is kind of our pilot project here, because for those of you that are unaware, Zach and I were looking at partnering with other nonprofits that one of the biggest costs when a nonprofit is starting up is legal fees, which is a couple $100, which isn't that bad. The biggest one is making a website or app so that they can be found. So if we can partner with other nonprofits and do work for them for free, you guys get experience. You get to put it on your resume. You get to feel good for helping a nonprofit, and it helps them just a massive amount. So if we can standardize this stuff, so that way Zach and I feel more comfortable pitching those things to their nonprofits, that would be awesome. So we're kind of preparing for the future here.
Yeah, and also to touch on it just a little bit more, we've already partnered with at least one nonprofit, Bread for the Journey, and that's in the partners channel. They just letting you guys know that they are going to request kind of a design like review. So they want to know like kind of just I guess feedback, kind of like us. But then potentially that will be a project that we could have as an active project if anyone wants to jump on or anything like that. But that's directly for a nonprofit that will get a lot more exposure, than just OneLeaf, as we are kind of the development hub and design hub. They're actively reaching out to nonprofits and making tons of connections, and those nonprofits help other people. So it's kind of an expanding effort.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, now that we've kind of discussed a little bit about our future plans. If anybody has anything to discuss or that they're curious about before we move into the nitty gritty of this, I'm definitely open to waiting a minute and discussing.
Discussing the CSS standards, or
discussing the standards, or discussing us working with other nonprofits. Questions you guys have? Just kind of opening it up here real quick before we get into the difficult stuff.
Well, I think it's a great direction, especially having interacted with a lot of nonprofits. Tech talent is very, very sparse in those realms, and they're very desperate to modernize quickly. So there's a lot of things that can function as projects themselves. So this is one example, having a design review or a code review. But Sabian, you also mentioned coming out with a website or an app. But even internal tools, a lot of the administrative tools that they use aren't up to par with modern efficiency and modern protocol and standards. So it'd be really interesting to see what projects get pitched with the nonprofits that you talk to, but also how that project will function over time in terms of maintenance once the deliverables are given and so on. So it'll be interesting to just see that process in itself.
I think you hit on a great point for internal tools for other nonprofits. I think that would be kind of cool if we were to develop almost a platform for people starting nonprofits. Because I had to do a bunch of legal research myself to start our nonprofit, and if there was a more simplified platform where I didn't have to pay several $100s for just the setting up of the paperwork, that would be like invaluable to other nonprofits.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think one thing that would help as well is getting the website up as soon as possible. And if we
No, yeah,
focus
you're
on
right.
that, it'll be easier to pitch it to other people. And we're like, hey, look, we got a nice website and everything's working fine or whatever. It brings in more credibility than just our
Yeah,
website is still building and stuff like that.
No, yeah,
it
you
acts
hit it on the head there.
it acts as a benchmark.
And Zach and I aren't necessarily like if you would have asked Zach and I 2 months ago if we were comfortable going to a nonprofit and pitching any sort of work for them, we would have immediately said no because we didn't have any sort of team in place. We didn't. I don't want to say we didn't trust anyone, but like we couldn't. We had no guarantee that work was going to even get done if we took it on. So it was kind of scary. But after watching how everybody's hopped on the One Leaf website, we really have gained some faith in not only you guys and specifically, but the organization as a whole that we can complete things.
I don't know if this is. Here's the question I have. My question is, well, it's more of something I've noticed. Like, if you look at all the people on the server, on the Discord server, there's a lot of people, but I don't really see that many people like actively contributing to any of the projects. Am I missing something, or
No, you're not missing
is it
anything.
just
We
that
have.
people
Sorry, go
do
ahead.
people just sign up but not actually do anything after a while?
Yeah, you're right. We have about 370 people in the Discord, and we have what, maybe 30 people that are fairly active, maybe. Um, and that's Zach and I have been working with each other for a long time to try and figure out how to foster interactivity with each other. That's been probably the hardest thing from Zach and I's perspective to figure out. I think the most recent change that we've made that will increase that was the daily progress channel. That's kept a lot of people active daily and interacting. Um, but a lot of it is just people being active or pushing out resources or asking questions or just daily learning to check the Discord. And a lot of people join and then just never check Discord again or don't even. We have probably like 150 to 200 people that haven't even put out an introduction. So we're definitely open to suggestions on how we could do better. But we've tried to foster growth and interactivity as much as possible. But there's only so much Zach and I can do to interact with 400 people.
Right. Um, I think some part of it is natural. You're always going to have the regulars and the majority not being as active, especially with competing priorities. And I think you guys are doing a great job along with the rest of the community in engaging those regular people. Something for consideration might be I don't know if there's a bot for this on Discord, but having a bot check in with inactive people if they've been inactive for a certain period of time, or having a person in the community check in with them, and then pinging them up to a certain point and seeing if they're responsive or not. And if they're not, then potentially considering uh, making them permanently inactive or archiving them completely. Just because the downside of having a continually expanding community with a small circle of regulars is that it gets harder and harder to breach that first barrier of introducing yourself and being a part of that community, especially if the regulars seem very cliquey. And second, it gives a sense of disparity between the numbers of what the community actually is in terms of size, but who's actually doing the work. So it can be demotivating at a certain point. I don't know if it's now and I don't know if necessarily culling is the best way to go about it, but that could be just a regular check-in system to see who's inactive and active might be a way to go about it.
So I agree with everything. We've done a few things to combat this. Zach and I have personally sent private messages to the vast majority of people that are inactive. Discord only lets us send, I think, 10 private messages per day to people, to 10 unique people.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb. If you're friends with them, you can send as many as you want.
Right.
But since they have to add us as a friend, we can only send so many because it keeps you from spamming everyone. So we've tried on that front. We could also set up a bot to do it. I like that idea. Uh, some other things that we've done. I'm trying to think. You had a good point about the clickiness of it. So what I've tried to do is when people make an introduction, I read through their introduction and I find something that they're interested in, and I try and in the dev talk or the general channel, I at them and ask them a question about it.
Hmm.
Which I think has done wonders for people just being like, oh, I don't even know where to start to interact with these people. But I would be interested to hear what I could do better on that front because I feel like once that conversation dies off, if they don't engage, I have too many people to message that I can't remember to. Um,
Right.
so that's where we could either maybe use some more community managers, which we're looking for. We've put some announcements out there for. But it is definitely a difficult task to be a community manager and have enough passion to constantly be putting out that effort.
I think another consideration is that we don't. It's difficult to see interactions between individuals in the community. So even if people might not be posting in the projects or the channels, we might not be aware of who's talking to who and if they're forming connections elsewhere or doing work elsewhere. So I think there is some ambiguity that is natural as well to the process. But it doesn't have to be a pessimistic one. It could be an optimistic one, and we can assume that people are hopefully talking to each other on separate channels elsewhere.
That's a good point. I think the best thing that fosters this is not only that we have some general, some dev talk, some random channels, so you can just throw whatever in. We gave you the interest channel, so you can talk about whatever you're interested in.
Hmm.
Which they're not terribly active. Zach and I usually are the ones posting the majority of it, but design's been pretty active. I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, and I think a good point is to touch on the topic of we only have Discord right now. Like GitHub is another kind of indicator of people that are active.
Mhm.
But once we really get the website up and people can sign up and have a page on there and a profile on the website, then I think we can go in and prune some of the members and say, at everyone, because, it affects all of us in an announcement. You can say, please join the website after, a few weeks or that stuff. We're going to go prune, and whoever doesn't have an account on there, we're going to ask you or, just kind of move from there. That'll be a better indicator of what kind of people want to stay, I guess, if they're on the website or not.
It'd be smart to get some kind of metric recorded about user activity or something.
I'll look into a bot for that. That's a good idea.
I'm saying with the website too, since we'll be able to store that data.
Uh, there's also other bots that do promote interactivity in a community. I don't know if there's an equivalent for this for Discord, but Slack had, I believe it was called Donut. If anyone's used it or heard about it, it essentially pairs people up in the community based on a set frequency, and you're then prompted to talk to each other, meet with each other over a conference call or something. I don't know if that is necessarily the best concept to implement, but having bots take over some of the community interactivity, if there are bots that do that on Discord, would also be a way to remove some of the workload from community managers.
The only caveat to that is bots can interact weird and override each other's permissions and whatnot. So there is a bit of work to make sure they integrate correctly, which is kind of a pain in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the weekly voice chats would be a great idea. We can all just hop in and get to know each other.
Yep.
I'm gonna make sure that one's written down. Okay. Any other extraneous ideas or things that you guys want to talk about before we get into the boring project management stuff there, where people are probably gonna be like, you know what, I'm out of this stream.
On the note of GitHub being available for oneleif, we should also get a dribble going
Dribble. I
to
have
have
no
the
idea what that is.
Let's
to
hear it.
have
Yeah, no, we should do that.
to have the project features on the design side for the designers as well.
Zach was also toying with the idea of getting a one-leaf Zeppelin as well. I don't know how that differs from Dribble or whatnot.
So Dribble, I mean, yeah, why don't you touch on it? I mean, Dribble's really cool. I'll say
Do
that.
you want to take it or?
I'll say my limited knowledge, and you can.
Sure. Yeah. No. Definitely.
So Dribble is kind of like CodePen, but for designers. But you kind of see the design and animations of, like, let's say an app or a little mock-up or a website, and you can take inspiration from other dribbles or that stuff. But it's just a really cool website to scroll through and get ideas for user interfaces and user experiences, kind of
So it's like
differentiate.
a Pinterest for looking at UX designs.
Yeah, there's another. There's a couple of them across the internet. Another popular one is Behance, which was recently bought out by Adobe, and they have complete case studies on there. Sometimes even things like industrial design. So going into the other realms of design rather than just digital design. So there's a lot of these project showcase platforms, and it'd be really cool for OneLeaf to get one to have that GitHub alternative that's there for developers, but instead for designers as well.
And I think the OneLeaf website kind of solves that problem because you can make a post and you can link to either your GitHub or your Dribble or whatever, and
Mhm.
and then you can add a tag to your post so that way people can say, "Oh, I want to look for UX posts," which would allow you to kind of search through just like Dribble, I guess, possibly.
Yeah, no, that could potentially work. What I meant more was just having having a OneLeaf account to showcase some of the OneLeaf work,
Got it.
so people can still post the individual work that they're doing, but uh, similar to GitHub, just having that OneLeaf parent account would be
Gotcha,
really,
gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha. Cool. It's kind of like the Medium publication, how everybody can publish
yeah,
RSS. Got it.
yeah, to kind of give like UX and UI snippets every now and then.
No, yeah, I like that. And we're not limited to programming and design either. Like we have some people that are interested in 2D, 3D modeling, audio, making music, that type of
Mhm.
stuff. I'd definitely be open to looking at how we can foster growth for each of those as well. But we don't have any champions for any of those domains. So once we get them, we can start looking at them more.
Definitely. Zach, did you want to take Zeppelin as well? Because I don't know if we got into that.
Oh yeah, I'll note that. Yeah, Zeppelin would be amazing too.
He meant, do you want to explain it?
Yeah.
Explain it. Oh yeah, okay. So Zeppelin is kind of the end user of the design. So people make designs in Photoshop or XD or Sketch, Figma, and they can turn their storyboards and they export into Zeppelin files, and they can go into a Zeppelin project. Then the developers can look at that, see the exact dimensions of, like, okay, this login button is 16 pixels away from here. That's kind of the constraints of it. But then also you can instantly download the assets per platform. So iOS gets the 1, 2, and 3 times, and then I think Android gets SVG, and then web gets their own PNGs or whatever. But you can see the colors, they can name colors, and they can actually export the colors to CSS or actual code for mobile. And then there's also fonts and other things like that. People can make notes, and there's like the whole team interaction on there. If you have any questions of that, you don't have to look at like the Figma doc, and you guys can work on this end doc of Zeppelin files.
Yep. So Zach pretty much summed it up well. I posted an image and a video on the streaming channel just for reference, but the picture shows redlining, which Zach outlined, designers giving dev the handoff. Uh, Previously and traditionally, we'd have had to physically put in all those codes, highlight things, the assets, the style guides, CSS elements, and so on, which took a lot of time. But now with Zeppelin, the developer themselves can go in, look at each asset individually, without the designer having to do all that work. And Zeppelin basically automatically redlines it for you.
Man, I'm seeing a lot of opportunity for OneLeaf's growth here. If we get a Dribble, a Zeppelin, um, okay, so what I'm seeing is OneLeaf website as kind of this, to tie it back into what we're supposed to actually talk about today. I see OneLeaf website as kind of this central location for us to find out how to get involved in OneLeaf. So you can find our Medium, you can find our Dribble, you can find our Zeppelin, you can find our GitHub, you can find our Discord, right? So those are the main ones that I can think of right now. But as we scale up, we can add things for audio, we can add things for 2D, 3D modeling.
Right.
And I think it'd just be.
Just to,
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it would just be a great um, like setup for us to have that would allow the organization to grow and people to not feel so um, intimidated to join and get involved.
Definitely. Just to point out one thing, though, Zeppelin is more of an internal extension. It's not really a platform, so it would connect to Sketch or Figma. And when the developers, like as Zach mentioned, once they go in to see the designs, um, assuming both parties have the extension, they would be able to communicate that through Zeppelin.
Got it. So it'll be
So
more
it's not,
specific to the OneLeaf website.
or any other project that does have a designer and developer. It's just a way to communicate better.
Got it.
Yeah.
Some other things. Oh, Zach, we haven't. I don't think we've talked about this. Since we have some people here that are interested in talking about the direction of OneLeaf. We have been playing with the idea and have started to bring in recruiters to OneLeaf. So we have the career advice channel where we'd like you guys to be able to ask questions, and the recruiters aren't terribly active because they don't know how Discord works. A lot of them aren't gamers, but I will personally send them a message and say, "Hey, there's a question in there. Go look at it and answer it." Um, the other side to that is it could also lead to donations for OneLeaf. If we somehow get some sort of partnership with recruiting organizations and basically say if you find a OneLeaf recruit and hire them, give OneLeaf some sort of donation. So not only is it a tax deductible for them, but OneLeaf gets a referral bonus because they're used to giving out referral bonuses anyways, so it's not going to hurt their bottom line.
Yeah. No. I think I mentioned this in the last stream too. The whole recruiter thing is super cool, in my opinion. Having recruiters be part of an online community like this, actively interact with people, and help them find those jobs that some of them might be looking for is just a super neat and personal way of going about the job process, rather than just going online and submitting resumes.
So I am talking with one of the recruiters, the guy that got me the job that I'm starting in 2 weeks. I'm going to talk to him about setting up a stream in the next couple weeks of him and his boss coming in, and basically, what I'd like to do is have it a little bit more publicized to the stream be, and then have everybody join in the YouTube chat. Uh, Good self reminder to check. Okay, cool, nothing. But basically, have them there to answer questions that people have on either the recruiting process, what people are looking for in certain jobs. It really helped people with like imposter syndrome. I think is really common.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a stream with some recruiters on there would be super awesome. But anyways, that's a topic for next week. Man, I got lots of things to do. I got a thick to do list. Okay, all right. Any other things that we want to chit chat about before we get to the meat of it? Everybody else has been kind of quiet. This has been me and Fardeen discussing.
Yeah. How was your guys' day? It was like -7 here, and it was cold.
Heck, I didn't even check the weather today.
Zach,
It's -12 here.
Zach, it was so windy. I took a walk. I was wearing a sweater and then my like windproof down jacket, and it just ripped through it and just made me so freaking cold. I like walked out the door, walked 10 feet, and was like, nope, and went back inside.
Not to
Um,
brag or anything, but high of 53 here today.
What?
I'm gonna murder you, Will. God damn it.
I'd go tanning with that weather.
is that Fahrenheit?
Yeah.
I gotta convert it.
That'd be like what, 10 degrees Celsius?
11.
Dude, my math is so good. Anyways, okay, all right. Let's get to the topic. I keep beating around the bush here. Okay, the main things that I think we're missing right now are the CSS and testing standards. There's also a lot more that could be added to the JavaScript and React standards, but I think for now we kind of have a decent grasp on it. What might be useful is you and me sitting down and looking through some of the pull requests that have been out there and looking through the comments on them and kind of drawing standards from the resolution to those. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Cool. I will make a note of that. We can also look at standards from like Google and whatnot, or React or whatever, and see what they use and kind of extrapolate. I don't want to get like too many standards because people aren't going to look through them, but it would be useful for us to have like an easy table of contents that somebody made a PR, they didn't look at the standards, and you just link them to that
Yeah.
standard, and it would save you time.
That's really what it's for, just to kind of have ground to stand on when doing peer review.
The only problem that I see with that is if, for example, you decide one day that you hate One Leaf and you don't want to be involved. Not that I'm saying this is going to happen, but then we lose somebody that has a very deep understanding of the standards. So it might be a little more hard or a little more difficult to hold people to those standards if we don't understand them inside and out.
Well, that's what the proposals are for. I mean, if it does get to the point where there's different people in the community and they have a decided upon standard for how they want to write code, then that's up to them, in my opinion.
No, yeah, I agree with that 100%. Good note. Okay, so we'll go ahead and check these off. All right, so next one, I just want to put some notes on for tickets that I'm going to make. I'm going to make some tickets for me, Zach, and Susie to sit down and write out the wording for the About Us page, and then the what all we're going to put on the Contact Us page. That might be something that we add to the designs, because I don't think there's a design made for Contact Us or About Us right now. We kind of have a... Ooh, I forgot to do this. Disregard the code. I'm going to pull up the One Leaf website. Give it a second, it's launching. So, drum roll. This is what we got so far. It looks absolutely beautiful. I love it so far. So this is the home page. It kind of has the about. I don't remember why this box is here. And then the main things that we wanted to push across were the Discord and GitHub, and then probably the third one will be Dribble. And the other pages that we have right now are about us, which is the same thing. So that's why I need to write up a script for that. We have the posts page and the partners page. Partners looks the same because we don't have that right up yet.
They're all the same. It's just one landing view. And posts is the one different. Then you have the sign up and login.
Yep. And they're like, even without a design, they're already looking pretty swell. Okay, that
Yeah,
sign
I
up
don't
button
like
bothers the
that.
hell out of me. I don't know why. But anyways, I'm pretty happy with the progress on this, considering I haven't done a whole lot of work on it personally. So I'm like super happy that you guys have taken the reins on this one.
I love the filler text in the bottom left corner.
Cool description goes here. Very cool text. More.
That's Susie.
I'm not even mad about that. It's super cool. Anyway, so this is where we're currently standing. Actually, I believe we even have email verification. So that's where we're currently standing. This code is currently being pushed up to a server. I have the link to the backend on the Amazon Web Services, but the security is not currently set up correctly, so I'm not going to make that public. But Will or other front end developers that I trust, if you are interested in testing with the current backend that we have set up that's public and making sure that the security is set up correctly and you can in fact make requests, just message me and I will work on that with you. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I had a question. Is there a framework currently being used for a lot of the UI assets, or
That's a Susie question.
All the UI right now has been built by us.
okay, so it's all custom then?
Sorry. Oh yeah, it's all custom.
All right.
We decided, since this is kind of our thing and we're trying to learn as much as possible, that we'd prefer just to do it ourselves, to try and also to have kind of make it more powerful, more customizable.
Yep, that definitely makes sense. I guess this is something I'd have to take back to the design meeting and discuss with them. But the sooner we can get you those assets and some of the spacing principles and so on, I guess that helps to standardize your process as well.
The other thing that I want to add to that is a point that Zach and I wanted to make is we have some tickets right now that are blocked due to designs, and Zach and I have talked about it. And when Zach and I were originally working on our own front end, not in React, we kind of just put the fields in there and made sure they were functional. We didn't care about what it looked like, and we'd like to propagate that to the React and basically say Zach and I will write out the tickets and say this is exactly all you need to have in there. I don't give a blank what it looks like, just have it functional, and then whenever the designs are done, all we gotta do is make a new ticket and say, "Oop, go add the design, you're good to go." And then whoever makes that ticket, it can be more of a junior level ticket, and they can just add the style. They don't have to worry about the functionality of it.
Yeah, this site right now is pretty much made that the style is going to be changed in the future. Every
Yeah, everything's
because
componentized. It's
yeah,
perfect.
if you notice too, I mean, the mock-ups right now look pretty damn different than the website itself. Kind of waiting for finalized designs.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not even mad about that at all. Like that's exactly what you should be doing. We don't want you guys to do rework is the thing.
yeah, double efforts is definitely something to be concerned about, and I am probably envisioning the final designs to be vastly different as well.
It would
Um,
not surprise me at all.
but yeah, as long as I guess the coding framework is built in, and it's just a matter of substituting things, especially into the CSS templates, then it'll help with some of the double work.
Alrighty, so next thing, we haven't really talked about the partners page. I don't. Is it in the MVP? I don't remember. No, back in
It'd
it.
be in the roadmap if it was.
I just wanted to see if it was in the MVP. If that was something we said we were gonna do. It is not. Okay, cool. So we're not gonna worry about partners yet because that was more of a further thinking thing, and I don't think we can really make a partners page until the website is in the MVP state. Fardine, if you're not aware, MVP means minimum viable product. I'm not sure if that's a universal term.
No, it is.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Anyway, so I will make sure that's moved to the roadmap, and we won't worry about it for now. But yeah, that was the partnership thing where we were talking about partnering with other companies and nonprofits, and the goal for that is basically to have their copyrighted logo have some sort of contract that allows us to say these are the people that we're working with. So that way we can have a link to their website. It gets them traffic. It also shows that it builds some credibility for us as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next thing, I want to talk about the back end a little bit. So Arcus and I have been working hard to make sure everything's moved to the Amazon Web Services side, so that way you guys don't have to install Swift and get it running on your machine to test. We will. The goal is to have two separate backends, so two separate servers running, where you can hit like oneleif.com for the production backend that everybody else will see, or you can hit like oneleif.development.com or something like that, for you guys to all be using that to test. That way, you don't accidentally break something on production. But the purpose of that is that nobody has to worry about what the backend is set up like. You just have to go hit that endpoint. You just have to make sure you're pointing to oneleaf.dev.com, and then we can build some sort of check to say if we build it as a development version versus a production version, it'll just change that URL, and then you guys don't have to touch anything. Everything's already tested for you, and it's nice and quick. Will, any problems with that? Any additional
No
notes?
issues at all.
What was that? Sorry, I was talking while you were talking.
Oh, I said no issues at all.
Perfect, cool. I figured you guys would be appreciative of that setup. I will let you know when that's set up. We kind of have to wait for uh, the transfer of the host name to take place for that, and then we'll probably end up building just a subdomain. So instead of oneleaf.com to be like oneleaf.dev.com or something, so that way we can still be under the same host name. We may have to pay for another one. Okay, so something that we haven't talked about a whole lot on the on the development side, I've talked with Susie about it a decent bit, is the profile page. And the things that I'd like to see on there is kind of like what GitHub has. If I go to my profile, you can see here are the repositories that I've pinned. Here is my contribution graph, basically all the open source stuff that I've been working on. You can go back in the years, you can change how this looks. And then it kind of shows you what exactly I've done, right? So I'd like to GitHub has its own API, meaning that we can reach into GitHub and say what info can we grab about this person, right? So I'd like to make some sort of dashboard or metrics that you can see what posts people are making, how active they are on the website, that type of thing. That can almost be used by like once we build up some credibility as OneLeaf as an organization, recruiters could use that to look at the OneLeaf website and say, wow, this person is actually doing a lot of open source stuff. They like to know their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of imagine it looking somewhat like GitHub, where they have these tabs up here. And the tabs that we would have would be the dashboard itself, a list of all their posts that are filterable, a list of all their projects that they're working on, and the active projects sponsored by OneLeaf that they're working on, as well as social information. And the social information would be just what we already have set up in the API, so like email, username, location if they want it public, their bio, this type of stuff.
Would that necessarily have to be a separate tab, or could you put it under the profile description as it is on the left side?
You could do that, yes. I kind of like how they have like the links over here. So like I have my LinkedIn, I have my email, and then maybe like an attachment for my resume, maybe.
Yeah, because in terms of effort conservation and space conservation, having a separate tab for information we could have put down there, I think, might be redundant.
Yep, I just wanted to make sure we have all the things necessary for you guys to design it. It is so when we go to the design meeting, whenever that's scheduled,
Mhm.
in the MVP, I have it written down for uh, what we want on the profile, basically what each page or what each tab page user interface needs to contain.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that um, I first off, I want you guys to read through this. I will send a link in the Discord real quick. I want you guys to think of anything else that might be useful for someone to have on their profile that might make them look more appealable to recruiters. That might help you find out more about this person. Like for example, I'm starting an active project. I want to find people on the OneLeaf website who have similar interests, and I want to recruit them to my project. If you guys can think of anything else that we want to add to this, I'd like to add it to the MVP because I think their profile is probably one of the most important things of the OneLeaf website. And I went ahead and posted that link in the OneLeaf website channel. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes to read through that and make sure that we don't have any other suggestions before we move on. Thank you for the links to Dribble and Zeppelin Zeg. So for the dashboard / user metrics, what I didn't think about is Zach and I took the more developer level approach where we wanted to basically show their repositories and their activity on GitHub, but maybe we need to look at reaching out past that to Dribble and other platforms that they're active on, like Medium, for example.
Yeah, no, definitely. Especially if you can feature, for example, for someone who might not be here, but might enjoy uh, building a lot of the case studies with the projects and is more of a designer, they might have frequent Medium publications. So then how do you feature their work equally and comparatively to a coder who might have that GitHub link? And you can see a lot of their
That and we plan on at some point branching out beyond tech in general. Like we could have people that are interested in like I don't know architecture or engineering, for example. So yeah, we'll have to think about how we want to handle that. For the MVP, maybe we just worry about GitHub and Medium and Dribble, maybe, just to keep it simple and have something that works for tech at the beginning, so that we can get people interested.
I'd even say make it easier for everyone and just do GitHub for now.
Okay.
Just to keep scope achievable and
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah, good idea. Okay, so next topic. The active projects page. We don't have the active projects page up, yeah? Okay, cool. So what I'd like to do is once, for those of you unaware, in the OneLeaf Discord, we have a channel called Proposals, and what you can do is link to your GitHub repo or your design repo or whatever project you're working on, and basically give us a description of what the project is and request that it becomes a OneLeaf active project that other people can help on. I'd like to have a page that lists out all of those active projects that OneLeaf is sponsoring and supporting. And I believe that was already in the MVP. Yes, it was. It's just not currently designed. So I need to make a ticket to hash that out a little bit more. The goal for the majority of the pages is to look kind of like this posts page where you guys are probably 10 seconds behind, so I'm going to slowly talk about it. But basically what it is some sort of filter box on the left and then some cards about what the thing is. So for posts, for example, you'd have filter the post by tags on the left, and then in the center, you'd have cards for each of the individual posts. The card would have like an image of the post, the title, and subdescription. And then in the Meet the Team page, it would be like a picture of the person, and then their bio. And then in the active projects, it would be whatever logo for the project, the name of the project, and then its description.
Yeah, seems reasonable to me.
What that allows us to do is kind of reuse those components and keep the styling. It makes it quicker for everybody, and it keeps the feel seamless between the pages.
Right. I do considerations, but that's more for the design meeting.
You cut out real quick at the beginning of that
Oh,
sentence.
no, I said I have some design considerations,
Ah.
like the fringe cases,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
that's
we'll
more so
discuss
for the
that for
design
design.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Meet the team page. For those of you who are unaware, Will should be aware of this. I believe FTB should be as well. So this is more for you, Fardine. We have a page that we want all of the OneLeaf active members, those that have signed up. As soon as you create an account, it goes ahead and adds your account to the database, and then the Meet the Team page automatically populates the Meet the Team page with your profile. It gives you your picture, whatever you put for your name, and whatever you put for your bio. And then at the top of the page, there would be a map with little pins from where everybody's from,
Right.
which would be just astronomically cool to show, what the organization is made up of.
Definitely. More design fringe cases considerations,
Yeah,
but again,
definitely.
I'll keep that for the meeting.
Yep. Okay, so we've kind of talked about each of the pages. Next, we're going to move on to backend. Any notes on any of the things that we have? We can go back through and talk about specific tickets for each one of these, but I think the process for making those tickets is more. The steps would be for Arcus, Zach, and I to make the Swagger or the API documentation for you guys to reach in and grab that data. And then the front end people just say, okay, I just need to know what data to grab and make, a simple form for it until I have the designs. Sound about right, Will?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so for the back end, the first thing I want to talk about was the search functionality, because this is going to be core to the application itself. So I kind of want to have a little bit of a discussion on this. So things that we can search by or filter by would be tags, people, post names, what type of thing it is. So it could be a post, it could be a blog, it could be whatever you're searching for, and then do kind of what like Apple does with like a fuzzy search. So if you spell something wrong by like one letter, it would still find what you're looking for, which is really difficult, but it could be a super cool task to kind of recreate what Google does almost. Any comments on that one?
This is out of my league, so I'm gonna
No,
leave
it's
it
okay.
to
Sounds pretty
other
straightforward
devs.
to me. Like fuzzy search does sound interesting. And if you guys do have any junior backend tickets, I'd like to maybe try to get involved with that too.
Oh yeah, Arcus and I are in the progress of writing up documentation for how we've done each of the individual things. For example, like migrating to AWS and whatnot, so that way if projects do it in the future, we know how to do it. So if you want to sit down sometime, like when we're looking over the PRs for standards, we can talk about that as well.
Yep,
The other main thing, so the majority of the stuff in the backend is already done. Zach hammered out 95% of it, and then I did like another 5% on top of that. The biggest things, the biggest feature is search. The next one that we want to talk about, Zach, we can hear you opening things, by the way.
Hey, that's Smirnoff vodka. It's a little
Woo!
glass a while ago, so
Um,
keep going on. Sorry.
You're good. The other big thing that we need to implement is the JavaScript web tokens. I don't remember. It's JWT. It's web tokens. That makes it easier for the front end to manage sessions. That is something that we didn't have initially implemented, but was requested by the front end folks. We will get that done soon. The other, probably the biggest thing that we need to get done ASAP is the Swagger documentation, which basically says when people want to hit the profile page, what information is returned.
and examples of that information too.
Yeah, Sabine, do you want to show the little mock-up we have? I think it's for registration. The docs are actually.
You're gonna have to remind me where it's at. It's in the repository itself, right?
Yeah, so if you go there and you go to docs, and then you go into the you can
API?
just go to the AWS site, the AWS website. Yeah.
I don't want to show the URL on the stream. Yeah, I'll
It's
show
in
it.
docs under like index or something. But yeah, okay. Just if
I'll
you're
show
gonna
the
check it
JSON.
out, yeah, we'll post it later outside of the stream.
Yeah, basically it'll show you like if you request profile, it's gonna return email, username, location, bio, the tags and links relative to your profile. It's basically gonna show you as a front end developer what you need to handle when that data comes back to you.
Oh, it's in develop public docs, and then there's a Swagger YAML and a index HTML.
Did I close that page? I have too many tabs. You said it's in what?
It's under develop branch, under public, docs.
Swagger. Got it.
Yeah.
Haha. And
So
isn't
we
there
have
an
a
actual
start
little
to it.
page for this? Didn't he make a page?
Yeah.
It's like docs. Yeah. I will
Yeah.
I will send you guys the link to that. Rather than looking through this awfully formatted text file, it will pull up like a web page showing how these things work for you, which is super freaking cool. So I'll show you guys how that works momentarily. I need to write a note for that.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
It's not about this, it's about the JWT.
Yeah.
That's kind of something you need to make sure we've gotten consensus on, because while it's easier to use, it's not necessarily as secure. So we need to figure out if we really want to use this and what we need to do in order to use it
Okay.
correctly.
I know okay, sorry if I'm getting too technical here, but I know Vapor itself, the backend that we use, supports natively its own sort of session tokens, right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it has its own security concerns, but yeah, I am aware that there are security concerns with JWT. I will do a little bit of an analysis on those too, and I'll submit a proposal on which one we should use. I appreciate that feedback. That was a reminder that I should have given myself a while ago. Good catch.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, or
I mean,
if it's best, sorry, yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to bring up to the point that if we even question if we should use JWT or if we should stick with the basic auth that we have, do we do jQuery or, bring up other discussions of that stuff and kind of, all educate ourselves on all the different types? Because I'm not up to date on them. So that's why I stuck with basic auth.
And we could use
Well, I
like
guess
OAuth or something that's standardized.
Oh yeah. That's what
Yeah.
I meant. I just said
Yeah, said
no.
jQuery.
I meant it supports OAuth too. So
Yep, it does. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Fabrice. I will go do an analysis on each one of them individually, and I will inform. I will give all of the developers feedback on that because that is probably something that you guys would be interested in. Good catch.
cool.
The last big thing on the back end is to move everything. So right now, when the back end starts up, when the server starts up, and you make an account, for example, whenever we shut down the server, everything's deleted because it's just stored in memory. So what we need to do is basically take everything, move it to a database, test that all works, which is probably going to be a pretty long process. And then that way, when the server shuts down, the database is still up. Nothing touches that. It's all on its own. And that is probably going to be a fairly large process, and we're not terribly concerned with that right now because for testing, we don't really care if login and whatnot works, or if logins are stored because we're not at MVP yet, right? So that can be something that's kind of put off to the back burner until we're ready to go into production. The other concern with that is as we update things, as we change the database, we need to look at how that migration works. If we just add, if you imagine, for those that aren't backend developers, if you just imagine you're looking at an Excel spreadsheet and your entire application is based off of that Excel spreadsheet, what happens when you add a column? How does that propagate changes throughout the application?
Mm-hmm.
So that will be a pretty large effort. That is probably going to be a lot of tickets and a lot of work for the backend developers. So that's something I wanted to bring up that we're thinking about, but we're not quite concerned with just yet.
Well,
Our main concern is getting to MVP, making sure that our back end suits the needs of the front end as it moves forward. We kind of Zach really likes back end, so he kind of leapt forward and everything. The vast majority of things were working before the front end was even started. Okay, so we've gone through the majority of everything. We've kind of hit on the majority of the things that I need to take note of and make tickets of. I'm gonna go ahead and copy the uh, notes that I had from this. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the streaming channel, and then so there's actually I'm gonna post it to the oneleif website channel. I want you guys to throughout the next week or whatever look over that again. Make sure that I'm not missing anything because this is probably the most pivotal point in the oneleif website because we're having people join oneleif. We're having people that are interested in working, but we either don't have enough work for them, or we're not architected out or structured enough that we can give them work, or there's just not enough work to do. So this is by far one of the most important things that we can work on is just this planning right now, even if we don't get any work done on the website itself.
On that note, I think it will also be worthwhile to have a concrete project team rally around this, especially because I think it was Will. You might have mentioned that this, like the website, is paramount to everything else happening well. Um, so I think in terms of just getting progress going and having consistent deliverables, having a set project team with set people, and maybe having biweekly uh, discussions between the designers and the devs just to update each other, and having team meetings like independent of that so that we can get
I agree with that 100%. I will reach out to each of you individually. I know finding free time is a concern for a lot of you. So I will reach out to each of you individually and make sure that you're okay with it, that you um, are willing to take on that requirement, that new burden in your life. I don't want to say burden, that sounds rude. That new responsibility in your life.
Mhm.
So yeah, look forward to a
Um,
message from me from that.
I think something that might also help with communication and documentation, especially as the team grows, is I don't know if you've heard of the tool called Notion. It's similar to other project management tools, but it's a bit more functional in the sense that it has a note-taking feature, it has a wiki feature, and a couple other things that essentially help you to create a knowledge base.
Have you ever seen
Uh,
Confluence?
yeah, so it's essentially an alternative to Confluence, but
Got it.
Confluence is paid, so we
We,
can't.
I believe we're
We can
actually
get it
already
for free.
paying for Confluence. I don't remember. I'd have to go
We're
check.
paying for Confluence
I I don't
and
remember.
not
Okay,
use it.
so don't hate me for this, but okay, this is we'll talk about this after stream because this is not something that I want public. I'll make a note of it.
Fair enough. Okay.
Anyways, any other concerns before we end the stream? It's been a little over an hour. I know people are probably getting um, groggy and whatnot. So, any other things that you'd like to have public knowledge that are concerns that you have before we end the
Yeah,
stream and chit
yeah,
chat?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, hit me.
Going off of farting, the core, like kind of a core role of people that we can kind of depend on. I'm a part of the Vapor Discord, and they have like their core members and that stuff. So I'm looking at the kind of ranks or the roles over here, and there we have learners, designers, developer. But yeah, like project owner is someone that's definitely on an active project, but we don't have people actively like working on that. So how do you think, or what do you guys think of a way to show that these are the core members that you can count on, ask questions that are more active? Do we signify that as a role, or
I think okay. So before anybody else hops in, I have just one thing to say. The way we currently have it set up is that we have project owner or branch is set up as people who are in charge of an active project. And then we have developers. That's more of a role that says this is my status as an individual. I am a professional developer. It's not a status within the organization. So I think we may need to make roles that are distinct between that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Zach. And Steven, you touched upon it. Definitely some visual distinction would help. I don't know if it's a tag or if it's like a list pinned at the top of Discord that has the current members listed textually. Could be a combination. I don't know which one would be the best approach, but more so for you guys and for the project owners themselves. Since you are keeping track of all this, it'll serve you to know who's active and who's doing what, even if it is on a Google Doc somewhere. I think that's the more important aspect of it rather than the community necessarily knowing, but definitely having both would help.
one question I have is, like community manager and project owner and recruiter, and maybe learner are all kind of like OneLeaf specific, like role in OneLeaf.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, developer and designers are just like an interest or like what you are
Yeah,
classified
I
as.
think
So
I
we
think you're
could
right on
hide
that.
those roles and show the core, and then have like actual OneLeaf roles be shown. We can hide the developer and designer, but when you click on them, you still see they are one, or you can search by one and reference them. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we don't even need developer and designer. You can see whether or not they're a developer or designer by their interests, right? Maybe like if you have UXD on there, you kind of know. Eh. I
I
guess
don't
I
know.
guess there's
I
kind of a
see some
distinction
people
between
are
like
interested in both.
I think there might be a distinction between like somebody that's interested in UXD, somebody that's I don't know in high school that's interested in it, and then somebody who's a professional and somebody who's a senior level. And I'm
Yeah,
not sure how
that's
we
what
would.
we try to outline.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how that's distinct. Also, how a professional designer is distinct from a designer on a specific project.
Hey, look, we created a project for the community managers.
Yeah, here we go. Okay. So any other thing like core role? Like I really like that. We might roll with that and try that. But anything else before we move on?
No, I think when you and Sabian and well, everyone in this chat touched upon a lot of the things that I had in mind, aside from what I mentioned. So I'm personally satisfied.
Awesome. All right, Sabian.
No, I feel like we got everything that I wanted done.
Yep.
The majority of this was to basically have us discuss and make sure that I can go in and add tickets and everybody's happy with the current setup was the main concern.
Mm-hmm.
So, one last direct questioning to FTB and Will, making sure that y'all are happy with the setup that we have. That you don't have any other specific concerns because you two are kind of our core front end team, and you're not part of the uh, community management team where like Zach and I, talk to each other every day. We live in the same city. We work in the same building. You two are kind of the ones that I want to make sure are happy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I guess my only concern right now which is blocking us, which we've already discussed, is the designs for the front end. As soon as like we have like even ideas out there, I can make more tickets because that's one like we've been running dry on the ticket.
Yeah, we're getting pretty dry.
Yeah, no, I'm anxious as well to get you those. Like I'm
I'd
hoping
like
for
to
that
s-
meeting to come soon.
I'd like to sit in on that design meeting too.
Perfect.
Just to
Everybody who's interested in that design meeting, just go ahead and send me a private message real quick. That way I can, have a list. We don't have a formal way of tracking this, but like it'll help me remember who to ping to make sure that we are in on that meeting. You know what? Susie will post it on the One Leaf website channel. You guys can look at that. Never mind. I don't need your messages.
Yeah.
but I have some ideas for some more tickets after this meeting.
Perfect. I think we can end it there unless anybody has anything else pressing that they're interested in discussing.
No, I think that covers it.
All right, guys. I appreciate everybody joining on the stream. I hope everybody watching enjoyed.
Thanks for having us.